The number one fear is public humiliation. Okay.
I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Let's be real. Everybody's glued to their phones, eyes locked on Blake Lively breaking down in court, crying over "It Ends With Us," while Diddy's name keeps popping up like a cursed headline tied to everything dark and messy. But while all that noise is echoing through your feed, there's a bigger question that no one is asking. What aren't they telling us? Because word on the street is that Mel Gibson, yes, that Mel, is fed up. He's allegedly watching this entire circus unfold and calling it exactly what it is, a damn distraction. A full-blown Hollywood smokescreen. All this Blake versus Baldoni drama, the Diddy disaster trail, according to Gibson, it's strategic, it's planned, it's calculated, and most people don't even see it. The tears, the lawsuits, the interviews, the headlines, they're noise. Because while everyone's busy arguing about whether Blake Lively ruined a romance film, the real evil, the darkest corners of the entertainment industry, stay buried. But baby, we're digging them up.
Now, this is what I mean by actually starting to swim up or downstream with the rest of the salmon, eventually, if you stay here long enough.
Yeah.
You'll find yourself doing that. And you have to... There's a way of doing it without doing it.
Time I really came over here.
I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't...
You're 7 years old and someone is stroking you. It feels...
Our future is our children. Now, the first step in eradicating this crime is awareness.
Let's start with Blake. Ooh, she's good. Always playing the bubbly, sweet girl next door. America's favorite face with that Pinterest perfect life, but behind the scenes, allegedly, it's a whole different Blake. Sources from the It Ends With Us set say she didn't just act in the film, she hijacked it. This was supposed to be Justin Baldoni's passion project, his vision, his baby. But once Blake walked in, it was no longer his movie, it was hers.
All right, you guys, it is Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni Day. Finally, to all of the women out there that are watching, no matter what you do in life, you never, ever, ever go full Amber Heard.
Insiders claim she took full creative control, rewriting scenes, changing casting decisions, giving notes like she was the director, producer, and script doctor rolled into one. And Baldoni, reportedly devastated. He tried to push back, but she had the one thing he didn't: celebrity leverage. Blake didn't come in to collaborate, she came to conquer. She brought in her own legal team, flexed her Hollywood clout, and soon, Baldoni was sidelined from the project he built from the ground up. Critics later tore the film apart. Fans of the original book said it had lost its heart, its soul. It was cold, rushed, disjointed. But instead of retreating quietly, Blake came swinging. She filed a lawsuit, loud, messy, public. She accused Baldoni of harassment, boundary violations, and launching a smear campaign.
And to the point where this guy was in the basement at his own movie's premiere. And that what in fact happened was you guys were the ones out there generating negative press against Justin. You guys were the ones who were trying to ruin Justin.
But here's the plot twist. She didn't even put her name on the lawsuit at first. It came from a shell company. Traced right back to her team. The documents went deep, emails, texts, drafts, a full-on digital manhunt. And Baldoni, he wasn't staying quiet either. He countersued, called the whole thing a retaliation stunt, accused her of defamation, of trying to nuke his career out of pure spite.
From Armie Hammer, who got fired from Gossip Girl because he said during a dinner that she was a bitch, regarding Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, when I just recognized that they are up on their high horses and that they potentially treat people very bad.
Suddenly, every entertainment blog lit up. You couldn't scroll without seeing Blake Lively lawsuit in bold. Podcasts broke it down frame by frame. Reddit threads exploded. TMZ couldn't get enough, and just like that, Blake's chaos took center stage. Not Hollywood corruption, not criminal allegations, just a celebrity catfight served fresh and viral. But while the Blake drama dominated headlines, another storm was brewing.
Getting a closer look at the mountains of evidence federal investigators collected at the homes of P. Diddy leading up to his indictment. This includes things like guns, ammunition, electronic evidence, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and personal lubricant.
Enter Diddy. The man is buried under lawsuits so deep they could be a Netflix series on their own. Civil suits, federal investigations, allegations that could dismantle his empire from the inside out. But guess what? Media coverage? Still scattered, still cautious. still surface level. Why? Because there's only so much public attention to go around. And if everyone's eyes are glued to Blake sobbing on the courtroom floor over a movie script, then there's less oxygen left to fuel the fire around Diddy. And that is when the timing starts to feel too perfect. Blake's lawsuit landed just as Diddy's legal disaster was dominating headlines. Coincidence? Mel Gibson allegedly says, hell no. It's a classic Hollywood trick. Create a scandal big enough to drown out the real one. Something spicy but ultimately harmless. Something that keeps Twitter debating hair color and creative differences while the suits handle damage control behind the scenes. Blake versus Baldoni? It's easy to digest. Diddy facing criminal accusations? Way harder to spin. And while Blake's courtroom tantrum sucks up the spotlight, the real horror show slinks into the shadows. But Mel Gibson? Allegedly, he's had enough. And this is where Mel Gibson allegedly jumps in and goes off. Sources say he's been watching this media circus with pure disgust, not because of what's being said, but because of what's not. He sees the biggest podcasters in the game, people with millions of listeners and enormous platforms, falling right into Hollywood's trap. Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Patrick Bet-David, all of them feeding the machine.
Not seen a case so open and shut in my life, and the more that I read and the more details that I get into, I'm just shocked at how many lies were told, okay?
Instead of digging into Hollywood's dirtiest secrets, they're spending full podcast episodes hyping up Blake Lively's alleged on-set tantrums. Owens did a full breakdown in March. Megyn Kelly ran a whole segment in April. Even the PBD podcast couldn't resist tossing Blake's name into their Diddy discussions, casually spinning it as just another layer of scandal. But Mel, he allegedly called it for what it is, a Hollywood smoke bomb, a shiny distraction, a PR play straight out of the old school cover-up playbook. These aren't nobodies gossiping on TikTok. These are commentators who could be shining a light on the real darkness. Instead, they're caught up in a story about Blake Lively allegedly throwing a fit because she didn't get the final word on a romance movie. Let that sink in. And this wasn't just legal drama, it was deeply personal. Sources say Justin Baldoni genuinely trusted Blake. He thought she was on board with his vision, that she respected the material, that they were building something meaningful together. But the second she got power, she allegedly steamrolled everything. Insiders claim she vetoed casting choices, demanded rewrites, cut scenes that were critical to the story's heart, and when Baldoni pushed back, she brought in the lawyers. This was an artistic collaboration, it was a power move. Blake made sure everyone knew exactly who was in charge. And now, the Blake versus Baldoni scandal, it's everywhere. It's being kept alive on purpose. Why? Because it's the perfect headline. It's juicy enough to trend, but safe enough not to threaten the real Hollywood players. It's scandal without risk. Drama without depth. Easy for the public to follow, easy for the media to profit off, and just spicy enough to keep people distracted. Meanwhile, Diddy's cases, still crawling through courtrooms, still filled with chilling allegations, still buried behind Blake's spotlight. And the big podcasters, the so-called truth tellers, they're not breaking down court documents from Diddy's legal files. They're not exposing who enabled him. They're not asking who else might be involved. Nope. They're analyzing Blake's red carpet photos and debating her on-set behavior. That's not lazy, it's strategic. This is narrative control at its finest. Keep the people busy with a headline that feels like it matters. Give them something they can scream about on Instagram, something they can argue over at brunch, but never, ever shine the light on the people who actually hold the power. Because if the biggest names in media are too busy debating creative credits, if the industry keeps feeding us distraction after distraction, then maybe it's time we stop eating what they're serving. The real story, it's the one they won't put on the front page. And if we're not careful, we'll miss it entirely.